In example 16, we're given a function and a graph. So it asks, determine the area of the given region, y equals x minus x squared, and based on the given graph here. So we have a graph of that function, x minus x squared, and we have a portion of it shown from 0 to 1. So on your assignment, you should be able to transform this graph and this equation into an integral. So we can see on the x-axis, our limits of integration are going to be from 0 to 1, so we write those next to the integrand. And then of the function x minus x squared dx. So from here, it's the same thing we've been doing. Antiderivative of x is x squared over 2 minus x cubed over 3. That's the antiderivative of x squared. And we're going to evaluate that from 0 to 1. So we're going to plug 1 in for both scenarios with the x, so we get 1 squared over 2 minus 1 cubed over 3. That quantity is subtracted from subtracted by, we're going to say 0 squared over 2 minus 0 cubed over 3. So the whole right hand side in this scenario is going to go to 0. So we really have a half minus a third, which is a sixth. Alright, let's take a look at one of these involving a trig function now. So same scenario as example 16 here, we're doing example 17. We want to determine the area of the given region, y equals x plus sine of x, and the given region, we have to look at the graph. The graph is given to us as well. So for our limits of integration, we can see we're trying to find the shaded region here, so our limits of integration are 0 to pi. Okay? If we were doing something in terms of y, it would be 0 to 3, obviously, but we're not. We're in terms of x, so we're going to go 0 to pi in this case. Alright, so same thing we've been doing. We got to find the antiderivative of x and sine of x, so we end up getting x squared divided by 2 minus cosine of x, and we're going to evaluate that from 0 to pi. So make sure that you're substituting pi and 0 in for both places where x are. So we end up with pi squared over 2 minus cosine of pi minus 0 squared over 2 minus cosine of x. Please remember, just because we're using 0 doesn't mean the whole right hand side goes. You really need to make sure you pay attention when you substitute it into that trig function that you get the value back. So we end up with pi squared divided by 2 minus a negative 1, because cosine of pi is negative 1, minus 0 plus, okay, it's plus because this minus sign distributes over here in front of the minus sign in front of the cosine, so that minus minus makes it a plus, and the cosine of 0 is 1. Alright, so when we work through everything out, we end up getting pi squared divided by 2 plus 2.